is Obstructed View Podcast. I'm Matt Mosley, and we are coming to you just, a few minutes. We're taping after Baylor and Utah got it on, and extremely disappointing debut for DeQuan Finn, the Baylor offense. Baylor defense kind of hung in there, but, man, they were down 23-0 at the half. I'm sure the old school, if you want to look at a positive, yes, they did try to kind of fight back into the game. They got it to 23-12. They went for two there to try to make it 23-14, and they had plenty of time left, and so they were climbing back into the game. But to dig that hole and let's be real about this. A game, they may have gotten beat 40-10 or whatever if Cam Rising didn't get hurt. Utah's quarterback gets hurt over on the sideline. Coach does not think it's serious, but he didn't play the second half. Last year, they thought he would be back at some point. He never came back. So as much as I like Kyle Whittingham, and I'd give anything to have a coach, I've talked about the fact that it'd be great to have Dave Aranda. If he could be more like Kyle Whittingham, have a program more like that, that'd be a wonderful thing. But I don't want to read too much into, and again, I'm not going to try to be overly negative. I'll just say, the optics on, I knew this was going to be the case. Dave Aranda was over there trying to fix the defense, talk to the defense. Defense is struggling early in the game. But meanwhile, the offense hands them 6 basically down there at one point. It felt like a miracle that they were even. It was 17, and then they go for a field goal. It's blocked. The guy uses the Baylor blockers to hoist himself over the line. So it's 23-0 before you can, So, again, do you give Baylor credit for fighting back? Sure. I thought the defense kind of stabilized and played okay. How much of that was having Cam Rising out of the game? They were still playing. They were starting to play pretty well with him in the game. But, again, he's too good, and he would have made plays. Their freshman quarterback was not ready for prime time, so they kept the ball on the ground for the most part, and they finally, in the second-to-last drive for Utah, made some first downs. But I think their coach was pretty upset that it was 23-0, and then it was 23-3 at the half, and that Baylor kind of slowly but surely climbed back in a little bit. Now, let's hit – and what I was about to say is this. The optics were always going to look weird, okay? And I tried to prepare people because this is kind of what it used to be like with Mike Gundy. You're basically he called the offense, and he didn't care anything about what was going on defense. Well, generally you see your head coach over there getting ready to make some decisions, and hey, I might have to make a decision. Might have to go for it. And having the just kind of the feel for a game. Aranda spent almost all his time over with the defense, and so Spavital was kind of left on his own. I don't think it's that big of a deal, but this was an embarrassing offensive performance. And again, I'll own, I was very excited about DeQuan Finn and what he could bring and what it'd be like going on the road. He was jumpy. He wasn't ready. This was an embarrassment to go out there and throw for 111 yards and 9 for 21. He was throwing behind the line of scrimmage. He was getting the team in bad places. Can he do some things from a run perspective? Sure. Okay, and he had his moments. But, I was just looking at the stats at the end of the game. The fact that they ran for any yards is almost surprising. It all came on one big run. It was a 46-yard run by Dawson Pendergrass. He's the leading rusher, 9 carries for 69 yards. I don't know what you point to. The offensive line couldn't block. Quarterback couldn't throw. Even when he had time, one time it looked like he had time and he missed his receiver by 10 yards. There was no flow to the offense. It was almost shocking at one point in the first half, I guess late in the first half, to see them in Utah territory. Part of that was where they ended up with the ball on a play. It was bad. It's not. You brought all these new offensive coaches. You brought Spavital in, and none of this looked any different. I did think there were a couple of linemen that played okay. Siraki, the big guy, the big 6'9" guy, when they got him over to left tackle, at least the offense could function a little bit. And they had one play on the long Pendergrass run. That was kind of like what you call a wham play where 68, I believe that's Obedion, pulls, and he finally hit 81. 81 just blew up the whole offense. I mean, that's how they got the ball early. They hit DeQuan. Did that hit like throw him off? Did he have trouble responding? I don't know. I mean, he looked like a deer in headlights. I mean, that was a very poor start. You know, Sawyer got in there for a little bit when DeQuan was hurt. I mean, that's a difficult thing. They were going to put Sawyer in there on a 4th and 4 when the Bears still had a chance. We're down 23-12 in their own territory, and of course somebody false starts, and they have to back it up, and then they finally punted. Huge day for the punter. I mean, and if Baylor continues to play like this, he'll get plenty of opportunities. This offense does a great job of setting up its punter. Palmer, our man Palmer, is it Palmer Williams? I believe it is. I really shouldn't have to learn the punter's name this early in the season, but I did because he crushed the ball, and I think he had like a 76-yard punt at one point. I mean, he was like 57, 58. I mean, again, I know it's a thin air, and I know it's easier to punt, but still, just a tremendous performance by him. And again, with this offense, you're going to get all the opportunities you could want as a punter. Caden Jenkins, a great player for the Bears. Freshman last year, freshman All-American, comes out today. PI, grab, can't get off the field. They were, I mean, 3rd down. You got Utah behind the sticks a little bit. You got them in 3rd and long where you want. Time after time, poor decisions. One of those pass interferences is on it's like 3rd and 20. You're in a 3rd and 20, and you're down there in a route, just grabbing the guy. I mean, just cover. Just try to keep the thing in front of you. So, I mean, and again, I thought, I was looking at some of the defensive stats just to react a little bit to some of this. And Keaton Thomas, who I really like, a couple of run fits, he was okay. He was also during the headlights on one of those big running plays. I think, golly, I'm trying to think if that was the one where Cam Rising, the quarterback ran on him like on a 3rd and long. I mean, it's a big lumbering NFL-style guy. He goes racing downfield. There was another kind of jailbreak play where Keaton meets the guy in the open field, just didn't break him down, didn't get the tackle made. I would say Matt Jones made a lot of tackles. I thought he got washed out on some of their run plays when they had some success early. I think it's fair to say the defense settled down and ended up playing a pretty good game. And obviously, Utah didn't score in the second half. But again, they didn't have Cam Rising. They got extremely conservative. They tried to win with defense, and they knew they could. And the Bears, they knew if they could now the Baylor on that one play, Josh Cameron had a beautiful play. He evaded like 4 or 5 tacklers and got into the end zone. Bears go for it to try to get it 23-14. You'll never make me understand these things. I'm sure there's some chart that was trying to tell them if they got it to 14, then later in the game, of course, they could go for the win instead of the tying field goal. I get all that, but it's generally later in a game when you're trying to pull that stuff off, like in a comeback attempt. That was really early in the game. I mean, I don't know. Get it at 23-13. Am I crazy? Am I wrong? Do I need the chart? You want to send me a chart, somebody? Maybe I am, but I think every Baylor fan kind of thought still, hey, it's 23-13. There's a ton of left time in this game. Just kick the extra point, make it 23-13. Bears go for 2. Didn't have a play. On the 2-point conversion, DeQuan just kind of sends one to nowhere. This quarterback wasn't ready. I mean, I was calling him, Aranda called him the dog. This is. I don't want this to be dead coach walking all season. I don't want this to be. I want to go in the Air Force and try to be excited about that game, and we'll talk about it. My gosh, there should be a lot of fun stuff this time of the season. Maybe I'll have time to reflect and look at some of the film and go, the fact that Baylor never let that game get away, that they fought back and made it 23-12. But for the most part, I'm like 95% chance, 95% feeling pretty awful about that effort. Again, if you want to get excited about the defense, they did play hard. I thought they were at times really good against the run. They started defending better, but again, if your best corner's out there grabbing everybody, that's a problem. Caden Jenkins is supposed to be your best player in the secondary. I mean, what's going on? Offense couldn't run the ball, couldn't run block, really couldn't pass block that much either. I thought they got a little better on that front. But, what happens is when you can't pass block, you gotta roll your quarterback out, and you're rolling him to one side of the field, and it limits who's out in the routes, who you can go to. So it kind of limits what you're able to do. And again, he wasn't very accurate anyway. One point in the game, you're thinking, oh, maybe they have a shot here. It looks like they're about to get like one of their first downs of the game. And it's an option pitch to the sideline, and they get the first down. Except for, I guess the time was about to run out on them, so they had actually called a timeout. So they got to set up, run that play again, and I think that's going to be, I think it's 4th and 3. All right? This is go for it, Dave. Go for it, Dave, even though he doesn't have a clue what's happening on offense. I mean, somebody, I guess, is in his ear saying, Dave, should we go for it? What should we do? Dave's over there on the sideline with the defense trying to figure out what the world they're supposed to be doing. They come back. They set up the play. And then they run the same play. They run the option to the other side of the field. All right, they go to the wide side of the field with the option. Utah is just like, hey, thank you. Thank you. We just saw you do that over there. So we feel pretty good about that. Now, what's an option play? I was just talking to some guys the other night about like Lance McElhaney and how great he used to be. Jay Jeffrey at Baylor. There used to be some guys that could just, they could, and of course, back all those Oklahoma quarterbacks of the past, Jamel Holloway and others, they were so great at delivering that pitch or knowing when to keep it. Listen, if you're going to try to run something called the option, one of the options might ought to be your running quarterback. The guy like that. Those options were design pitches. They weren't true options. I mean, maybe he had the right to, but he never even sold it. It was just like a straight option pitch to the boundary. So I know Baylor wanted to get back to running it like Art and the gang ran it in 2013 and 14. This was pitiful. I mean, you say, well, Matt, Rice-Eccles is a tough place to play, I guess. I mean, I know they don't, says they're 32-2 and against non-conference opponents or whatever. Nobody ever beats them, non-conference opponents. But this was a conference opponent. I mean, I know it didn't count as a conference game, but still, you had two conference foes. And you really didn't stay. You really weren't. I know 23-12 will probably be misleading to a lot of people. They'll see it and go, I guess the Bears played an okay game. They were out of the game at halftime. Did we ever seriously think? I mean, I'll say this: when they hit the field goals and they got that touchdown, I started thinking, I guess I had thoughts of like that UCF comeback last year. I think that was a UCF game, but they had a couple of road kind of comebacks and some excitement that they got involved with there. Was that UCF or Cincinnati? Anyway, it's hard to remember. Maybe UCF, but this was disheartening in a lot of ways. Like, what's the identity of this team? Bad running game, bad passing game, great punting game. Looked like they got a pretty good kicker. Although they got to shore that up. He's trying a 50-yard field goal, and you got two guys using the Baylor snapper and the interior line of the field goal unit to hoist themselves above the line and come hopping in there. Like, I mean, it's beautiful. If you're a Utah fan or if you're any other kind of fan, it's a gorgeous field goal block. I think the rest of us, and that's why they brought Blandino, were like, hey, can they do that? Can they do that? And if you can do that, you better teach your team how to do it. You better teach your field goal block how to do it. Now, Utah missed a couple of field goals, helped keep Baylor at least kind of on the fringes of that game. But, I didn't see anything from Dave Aranda and this team to truly give me hope that they're getting ready to turn the corner and do something. Now, could they beat Air Force? Could they go to Colorado? Maybe play a lot better. Maybe function. They get to if they could somehow get to 3-1, then we're having a different conversation. We're feeling better about things. All those things are still on the table, but we only have what we have to go on, and they brought in a whole new offensive staff. Spavital, bring us the air raid. Let's go some air raid. Weren't ready. They weren't ready. The O-line couldn't block. The quarterback couldn't throw. And I got people already, by about halftime, it's like, hey, time to get Sawyer Robertson in there. You're going to start Sawyer next week. I mean, this is the bonus baby. This is the guy they spent all the NIL money. They identified a guy from the MAC, and boy, today he was not a primetime player. I mean, it was a nerve. It looked like he was a nervous wreck out there. All right. These are my initial thoughts. I'll watch more of it. I'll react during the week, but this is just right off the hoof. This is what you see. It's extremely disappointing. And if you think Dave Aranda wasn't on the hot seat before this game, I mean, he's hotter than ever. Hotter than ever. You got Pittman, and you got Napier, and you got Dave, okay? The three hottest seats in the country. And then if Marcus Freeman wants to keep going out and getting beat by people like Northern Illinois, add the Notre Dame coach to it, all right? Because the truth is, Mack Rhodes and all of Baylor put their necks on the line, Joe Vaughn, Overshown, whoever you want to bring up, to give Dave Aranda one more chance at this. And against a decent opponent, and I say decent, number 11 team in the country. It's a good program. It's a great program. They went out there and embarrassed themselves. Okay, let's not try to make ourselves feel better because it was 23-12 instead of 40-7. I mean, a huge part of that is because their quarterback was out. Let's not fool ourselves. Okay, the man has great hair, but he's very injury prone. All right. People think I'm kind of like that. I don't know if I have great hair, but I am very injury prone. All right. And then Texas, it makes me feel even more depressed that Texas is out there just killing people. Michigan's an embarrassment. You get Connor Stallions out of there. Now Texas is on a roll again. Texas may go win the national title. And then we got to watch this. We got to watch a team go out there and can't function. Can't run. Can't do anything. All right. Boy, very hopeful podcast, I would say. I've really, I think I've really lifted the spirits of Baylor fans. But you want what's real. I mean, you want to go watch Baylor Plus? Maybe they'll say something nice for you. You want the real story? You want real reactions from a Baylor grad and somebody who loves that university, but again is going to call it like it is. Come to Obstructed View. Tell a friend about it. Okay. Invite a friend, like I'm inviting you to church. All right, for Mike and the brotherhood we have at Rogue Media Network. It is the Obstructed View podcast. I'll put it out there. I'll let all of you guys react to it tonight, and appreciate everybody for hanging in there with me on this. Bears lose, 23-12. Here we go again. Good night, everybody.
We are Rogue Media Sports.